everybody. Welcome to our next episode of Product Talks, and we are here with dermatologist Dr. Amy Brodsky, and we're going to be talking about her skincare line called Derma Made. And Amy, tell us a little bit about Derma Made and what inspired you to create the skincare line.
Okay, so I'm a board certified dermatologist, and I always felt like there needed to be a brand that was made by dermatologists for dermatologists. And prior to going to medical school, my background is actually in biomedical engineering. And so I've always been interested in engineering products. And while I was a dermatology resident, I was also interested in cosmeceuticals. So I did a cosmeceutical fellowship with Dr. Zoe Dralos, where I actually flew to North Carolina, lived in her coach house, and learned all about cosmeceuticals.
Oh, I didn't know you did that. And she also
hmm
has an engineering background as well, right?
Oh, yeah. She's great. I learned so much from her.
Yeah, that's how she got interested in cosmeceuticals. It sounded like she had a similar background. So that's wonderful. So where did you do your dermatology residency?
University of Chicago.
Okay, University of Chicago. And are you from Chicago originally?
I'm born and bred in Chicago.
I love Chicago. I'm a Texan. You'll hear it in my accent
Uh,
every once in a while. Okay, so you've been a derm and how long have you been in practice now and out of training?
so 20 years, I can't believe it's been that long. In 2007, I started my own practice, and we actually built it from just me in one office to three offices, over eight providers, and like 50 to 60 employees. And just recently during COVID, we sold to private equity. So that's been interesting and different.
I actually sold my practice right before COVID to private equity.
Uh,
So we went through
Congratulations.
I'm really happy with it. We're a group of 40 practices, and it's been nice to try to implement systems that will go smoother in all the offices, which kind of
I
brings us
agree.
back to skincare retail. Most doctors are too busy. They only see patients, maybe 4 to 7 minutes a patient, 100 patients a day, and getting to people to incorporate skincare is difficult. And we're really good at it in our practice, and I'm sure you're really good at it in your practice. But once you join a big group like we both did, we want to take our systems and help everybody else retail skincare. Did that play a role in your development of Dermamade at all, that desire to help all your other colleagues?
Yes. And also, I mean, we realized that with healthcare, we weren't making more from insurance companies, yet we were paying more for our employees and whatnot. So the bottom line was getting squeezed, and skincare seemed sort of like a natural way of helping bridge that gap. I mean, we make over 150 to 200,000 a month just in skincare sales alone. And we could do better, but it continues to grow because patients love it. The other thing I really got frustrated with was how often I felt like we were spending time and money with prior authorizations. So I wanted to find a skincare line that I didn't have to write prior authorizations or prescriptions for, and that I could dispense in my office that would work for medical derm and cosmetic patients without having to go through a prescription prior authorization process.
Right. That makes a lot of sense. We don't take insurance in our practice, so I didn't have that problem. But my problem
Uh,
was speed and trying to keep my staff up to date on what all the newest products were. So I needed some kind of a system so that my staff could give the same good advice that I would give. That's why I invented the typing system, actually, to make my practice go a lot faster. And we have rules about what products fit in each category. And one of the things that fascinates me about your products is they happen to follow the rules that I follow. So
yep.
your products fit right into my system perfectly.
I learned everything I know from you, actually. And you didn't
Well,
even know that, which is so awesome.
yeah, you said you read my cosmeceutical critique column. Well, it's
All the time. I still read it all the time.
it's funny because when your products came out, I'm very skeptical, and I looked at the ingredients and I was like, these are great. Whoever made these knows
Yay.
what they're talking about. And then I met you and you told me you had read the column, so that was very gratifying
Yep.
that we're thinking alike. So that's nice. Okay, well, there are 25,000 skincare brands out there, which is insane. I can't believe that there's that many, and 25 companies that provide ingredients. So it's kind of a
Mm,
challenge to come out with something new. What you've done that I think is so fascinating is you've taken ingredients that we know work, that are important, that we use, but you've made it simple and affordable. So tell me
right.
about what led you to do that.
Well, I mean, over the last 15 years of seeing patients, I realized that most of these prestige products, which are products over $75, which is what most derms are selling in their practice, are just way too expensive for 90% of our patients. And so I needed something affordable, but also something that was a little bit more medical grade than what they would get over the counter. And so just kind of talking to patients and doing this for so long, I realized that $25 to $50 is the sweet spot where they think that they can actually purchase it. And it's also, a bit more aggressive and stronger than what they're getting over the over the counter. And I also wanted a skincare line that I could give to my general derm patients and my cosmetic patients. I see a lot of both. And I think with Derma Made, the packaging and the price point is nothing fancy. And so my general derm patients don't want anything fancy. And I realized that 20 to 30% of my patients, if I write a prescription for them, they don't even fill it. So at least this way, I know when they're walking out the door, did they get what I recommended, and are they going to actually use it?
Right. Well, that's actually pretty good. Studies show that only 33% of patients fill prescriptions that you write. So yours are doing better than
Right,
most. And also, there's
right.
another great study that Steve Feldman's group did that 95% of people underuse what they're supposed to use.
Ah,
95%. Isn't
interesting.
that amazing? So they use less than we tell them. And I think one of the reasons for that is price point. If you have a
Oh,
$200 sunscreen, you're not going to put enough on. Or if you have a
right, right.
$150 serum, you might not use it twice a day, or you might not refill it as often. So I think affordability plays a big role in that.
Yes, definitely key.
So, talking about affordability is, I'm fascinated with your vitamin C product because it is very affordable, and vitamin C's are usually a fortune.
Yeah.
And you know how dermatologists, we all have been taught that vitamin C has to be a low pH to penetrate and absorb and all of that. So I thought it would be good for everyone to hear about how you used L-ascorbic acid and how you made sure that it's at the same level of the competitive brands that are much more expensive.
Right. And we tested literally over 300 different types of skincare products. And just vitamin C alone, we probably tested at least 20 different types. So ours has 15% L-ascorbic acid, and L-ascorbic acid is the natural form of vitamin C that we have in our own skin. I also knew that L-ascorbic acid had to be in water because it's a hydrophilic molecule, so it likes water. A lot of other companies will use other forms of vitamin C, but they're not actually L-ascorbic acid. And then if they do use other forms, sometimes it won't be as effective. It won't be as strong because data shows that L-ascorbic acid is the one that actually our body recognizes. So a lot of vitamin C's are in cream or they're in oils. And so by definition, that's not L-ascorbic acid. The other thing I knew about vitamin C is that we had to stabilize it. So with ours, we stabilized it with a second antioxidant called panthenol, which is a vitamin B5 derivative. And that vitamin is actually really moisturizing and makes it very elegant feeling. If you go higher than that percentage, it starts to crystallize and it doesn't really play nicely in the sandbox with other stabilizers. And of course, we kept the pH at a low number at 3.25,
Hmm.
which makes it more stable longer.
And you can feel it tingle when you put it on, so you can feel that low pH. I'm a stinger, so I can
Right.
feel pHs. And
Yeah,
then
so can I.
panthenol is such a good anti-inflammatory, so that was smart to put that in there because some people get a little irritated from their vitamin C.
Yeah.
One trick I do is I always have my patients use a low pH cleanser, such as a glycolic cleanser or a salicylic acid cleanser, before they apply their vitamin C serum to help lower
Oh,
the skin pH a little bit to get the vitamin C in. And we've been doing
oh,
that
that's a
with your
great idea.
products. Yeah, it's been working
Awesome.
very
Yeah.
well. So another thing I like about your vitamin C, and I wanted to focus on it just because patients ask me so much about vitamin C serums and why are they so expensive, and yours is so affordable and follows all the right rules. Um, I can't find any kind of data about how often you should replenish your vitamin C, but I believe, without any backup on this, that once you open it, you really should probably replace it every month because air gets in there.
Great.
So that's another reason I feel like an affordable one matters, because you really need to throw it out and get a new one. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, I don't think anyone is throwing it out after 1 month, especially, and I won't mention other companies' names, but at $125 a pop, there's no way they were replacing it once a month. I kind of feel like we made the quantity about a 3 month supply. So if they could, keep it, use it for at the very most 3 months. But I always tell them, and we put it in a dark container. We say, keep it dark, keep it cold, and that way it won't be likely to destabilize.
Well, that makes sense. Well, I use mine in a month because I put it on my face,
Yeah,
on my neck, and my arms, and my legs because I'm in Miami. We get so much sun exposure.
good point. Totally great point. We are in Chicago where, like I said, like you said, patients use less than what we actually think they should be using. So this is a great case in point where patients are definitely not going to be refilling it every month.
Right. Well, it's a lot easier to put it all over when you can afford the bottle than when you're paying a fortune for
Right.
it.
Great point.
Okay. So let's see. Let's talk about skincare revenue opportunities in derm practices and maybe share some numbers. But before we do, I want to say to our viewers, it's not about making money. It's about educating your patients because we know they're going to buy products. They spend, I think, $2,500 within a week of seeing us somewhere, whether they go to CVS or a Mary Kay lady. So they should be buying the right product. So I don't want people to feel that we're pushing doctors to make money. It's not about that. It's about giving patients the right products and knowing that we're doing the patients a favor. And also, when I was at the University of Miami, sorry to get sidetracked, the university didn't want me to sell products, and this was in
Same.
2005, because of this whole
Mm-hmm.
ethical issue of, is it unethical to make money off of your patients? So
Yep.
what we did is we did a survey of our patients. We had about 2,000 people answer the survey, and asked all these questions and if they wanted us to sell products. And 100% of patients said they wanted us to
Wow.
sell because they wanted to make sure they were getting the right thing. Even if we gave them a
That's
sample,
great.
they weren't sure they were getting the right thing. So patients want it, and I think we should do it. But with that said, tell us a little bit about the revenue opportunity that does come with selling skincare.
Sure. Well, I wanted to add to that. Once I heard a number that really resonated with me, and I think that was part of the reason why I helped start Derma Made, was that 80% of patients are going to buy skincare right after they leave your office because they'll hear what you suggest, but they may not buy it, and then they'll leave and buy it somewhere else. And only like 5 to 10% are actually buying it at a derm office. And you are absolutely right. We use the language about, do you want the doctor to educate you on skincare? And we can talk more about that later. But in my practice, we do over $1.5 million a year in sales just in skincare with our providers. And I also think it's really important that, when patients come in, they're leaving with what we educated them about, and it's super convenient. So they don't have to go to the Walgreens or the Target or whatnot.
Right, and it's so important because a lot of times they would come in with the wrong product prior to me selling because they would remember I said barrier repair moisturizer,
Right.
but people don't know what that is, and then they would go and buy the wrong one. So I do think it's so important. And
I
then
agree.
Well, whenever we're talking about revenue, how many providers are in that practice?
So
That you
we,
said, yeah.
oh, sorry, let me
No, it's
start over
okay.
again. So we have 8 providers, and only 6 of those providers are actually doing dermatology. One is doing Mohs. Well, let me start over again. We have 8 providers. Of those, 6 are probably mostly the ones that sell the products, although we do have a Mohs surgeon who I believe, and I always say this, if you're not telling your patients to use sunscreen as a Mohs surgeon, you're doing them a disservice because you're cutting off their skin cancers, but then you're not telling them what to use. So, especially if you live in a practice where it's sunny outside, every single day they get their skin cancer cut off and then they drive home without sunscreen. To me, that seems a little ridiculous.
Right. And also, we both know that if they're using vitamin C and retinol in the area that's going to have surgery, they're going to heal so
Right.
much faster from their Mohs.
Completely. That's a really good point.
It's been proven so many times, but I don't hear a lot of Mohs surgeons remembering to tell their patients that.
Never. I'm going to remind mine after listening to you to do that.
That was proven back in the 70s by Steve Mandy, who
Yeah.
happened to work with me at University of Miami.
Ah,
So that was drilled
okay.
into our heads.
That's
Use retinoids
awesome.
before any procedure. Okay, let's see. What about doctors? We talked a little bit about this, who think that selling products is not for them. Besides the ethical conflict we talked about and the not wanting to make money, the other things I hear is I don't have time. How do you
Right.
address that when the doctors say they don't have time?
Well, let me step back. When a patient comes in my office, they fill out a form that says, "Do you want your doctor to educate you on skincare?" And so, yes or no, it's just a yes or no question. And so, when a patient comes in and the provider sees that they wrote yes, then I feel like the providers know that they're obligated to do it that day. Now, either they can say, "Hey, let's schedule a date where we simply educate you on skincare," and that whole day is dedicated to that only. So sometimes I'll do that. Sometimes I'll say to a patient, it really depends on the patient. I'll do my whole total body skin exam and I will start at the face and then I'll say, let's come back to the face when we're all done. And then when I get to the face, I say, do you want me to teach you what to do to get rid of brown spots? And then my medical assistants know that this is what I use for my dyschromia protocol. So sometimes if I'm really running behind, I'll say to my medical assistant, can you educate them about the dyschromia protocol? I've told you this 100 times, so you guys could do it like the back of your hand. And then they'll say, sure. So sometimes that will happen, but most of the time it's me educating them. And yes, it takes maybe 1 or 2 extra minutes, but it's totally worth it. I always have them come back after 6 weeks to see the before and after pictures, and they inevitably always like it and they always see a difference. But if you're really running not on time and there's a crunch, I usually make that appointment separate and I have them come back.
Do you have any idea what percent of your patients say they want to talk about skincare versus what percent say no?
At least 80% easily.
So
And it's really how you present it to them too. Sometimes they'll like press or they'll write no on the form, but then when I'm doing their body exam or I'm even looking at their faces for actinic keratoses, I'll say, can I give you something to diminish the actinic keratoses or to diminish the brown spots? And they'll be like, sure. And then I always say to them, well, how many steps do you already do in the morning? If they say none, then I keep it simple. If they say, oh, I do this, this, and this, and they're using La Mer and they're using like 5 steps, well, then I know for sure that they want me to teach them. And I've never met somebody that spends a fortune on skincare that doesn't want to save money. So when I tell them about the price point, they're like, oh, that's amazing. Um, and then the other thing that I wanted to point out is that if a patient comes in because they have a rash or something else, or they have acne, I truly believe that, when we are prescribing medications, we're selling medications. So dermatology drugs is a $19 billion industry. So we're essentially selling for big pharma when we write a prescription, right? Um, and the other thing that really kind of irritates me is that when you're a derm resident, you're really not learning about skincare. I mean, they don't really put that in your residency program, at least in mine. I don't know if they did for you. Did they?
No, we
No?
didn't. I was Zoe Dralis was the only cosmetic dermatologist whenever I was in training.
Right. Same with me. And I just feel like, and I educate residents now about skincare, and I ask them like, "Are you guys learning this stuff in your residency?" And they're like, "Nope, we're still not learning it." And so I really feel like as dermatologists, we need to take back the ownership of skincare. I mean, why is a celebrity teaching about skincare and I'm not? So when I think of it that way, I don't feel like I'm selling. I feel like I'm educating. And then also, if a patient's getting a prescription and they go to the pharmacy and they see that this is like an $80 prescription because they have such a high deductible, I don't feel bad at all that they are coming to my office getting affordable options.
Right. And also, the prescriptions are going to work better if they're combined in the proper skincare routine. So, I'm all
Right,
about skincare
exactly.
regimen design, as you know. So, I am a big believer
Yeah,
that the right cleanser and the right moisturizer are going to make those prescription medications work better, especially if you use them in the right order. So what we do is
absolutely.
I developed my software for the reasons that you said is that dermatologists aren't trained in residency and they really don't have time, or a lot of them don't even have the interest in skincare. But many of them do want to make sure their patients get the right thing. So we have patients take a quiz and it assigns them to one of 16 Bauman skin types. And then the
Mm,
software, there's actually 40,000 different regimen templates in the software. So
wow,
depending on how they answer the questions, and then the products have to have rules that they meet. So ingredients they can have and ingredients they can't have, and it'll pop into the different spots. And that's why it's so amazing that all of your products actually meet these very stringent criteria that you have to pop into the regimens. But that makes it all automated. So the patient takes a quiz, they get this regimen automatically generated that the doctor
wow.
doesn't even have to discuss if they don't want to. They
Oh,
push print, they get a printed copy, it goes into their phone, they can refill online. So you're going to be seeing a lot of doctors using, and we have 200 doctors using my software. And so we're going to be launching your products throughout our system very soon. And they're going to
awesome.
be very excited to have something that does what we've been doing, but at a much better price point.
Right. And you mentioned regimens and protocols. Like I found that my patients, if we were selling, the SkinCeuticals, the Obagis, whatnot, they would leave with one product. They would go up to the front. They'd say, well, what's the one thing I need? Because that's all I can afford. And so you and I both know that one product is not going to get the efficacy that we want. It has to be the right order, the right steps, and the right, regimen. And so with Derma Made, 90% and more of my patients can afford the entire protocol. So I know that they're using the right stuff, the right steps, and they're not skimping on it. They're using it all. So they'll leave with 5 or 6 products for the same price that they used to leave with one product.
Right. And what we've found is that if somebody has taken the quiz and they know their Bauman skin type, they buy 3 times as many products then and spend 3 times as much money than if they don't know their Bauman
Wow.
skin type. So that's interesting. They're more likely to
Yeah.
rebuy, which is also interesting. But one thing you're going to love so we have, like I said, over 200 doctors and probably about 300,000 patients using our system. And when you look at the best selling products, they're exactly in the price range that you said, $25 to $50. So
Awesome.
in the beginning, the
Interesting.
doctors thought, oh, patients aren't going to want the less expensive products, but proof is in the pudding. They purchase
Yep.
them more. We absolutely know this because it's more affordable and they can refill more often.
Absolutely.
Okay,
Interesting.
I've got all these great questions for you. So let's see, what are your
Okay.
3 most commonly used products in your practice that of your Derma
Okay.
Made?
So this is just not just for me, but all of my providers love the MediWash. This is the MediWash. It says on here, and the ingredients are always in the front. I really wanted to be transparent about that. It's got 3% sulfur, 2% sal acid. So I am using this for acne, rosacea. I'm using it in the scalp for seborrheic dermatitis, for psoriasis. I'm using it on the body for tinea versicolor. I'm using it on the feet if they have tinea pedis. So it really has it's eliminated my need for prescribing ketoconazole. I feel like that's what a lot of dermatologists prescribe. And I've never prescribed ketoconazole shampoo since I started Derma Made, because the MediWash works so great. And if I have a patient, like a young teenager that has like acne, but she's kind of got this oily scalp and it's kind of hormonal, I'll have her wash her scalp and her face with the MediWash.
And how many times a day do you use that for your scalp? Twice a day? Or, I mean, I guess
It's
they only wash it once a day.
Yeah, I usually gauge like when do you shower, how often do you wash your hair, that type of thing. So typically I only use the Medi Wash once a day, and then I'll have them use the light foaming cleanser the other time of day. Some patients do use it twice a day, but most of the time I have them do once.
When they use it on their scalp, have they ever had any issues with hair color or drying out the scalp or anything like that?
Not at all. And it's sulfate free. So, patients who straighten their hair can use it. On occasion, if a patient really, really has bad subderm, but they don't want to wash their hair, I'll have them use it on their fingers, rub it into their scalp and just not wash it off. And that works
Oh,
too.
that's very interesting. Gosh, remember how bad all those seborrheic dermatologist shampoos used to be? They used to ruin your
Yep.
hair color and dry your hair out and make it break. So it's so nice that they're a
Right.
new one. Okay, what's another favorite product that you have?
Okay. My other favorite product is the retinol with bakuchi oil. I know Zoe wants to do a study with retinol with bakuchi oil versus tretinoin, and the patients had the same efficacy without any of the irritation. So I'm using the retinol for my acne patients, obviously my anti-aging patients, my dyschromia patients. Um, so I love the retinol. I think I use it all pretty much all day with any type of patient.
Yeah,
And
I
it's not
also.
that irritating.
Mhm. I do the same thing. Sewong Kang did that great study on 80-year-old women under their arms and showed that retinol alone got helped the wrinkles. So I do believe that retinols are as strong as prescription retinoids, but I start everybody on a low strength and move them up. So I've really liked
Same.
the 0.25, the purple one, because that's a nice one to start somebody on. And I haven't they of course they have to use the right cleanser and the right moisturizer also, but I haven't
Right.
had irritation starting people on this one. And then you also have the 0.5. Do you have two strengths of retinols, or is there another strength also?
Two strengths.
Two strengths. Okay.
Because when you get even stronger than that, it's really only incrementally better with efficacy. So I usually can get 100% of my patients on either the 0.25 or the 0.5.
Right. Well, maybe you know the answer to this question because I noticed that you have real retinol in your product, and a lot of companies choose like a retinol ester or retinol palmitate or something that we know doesn't work, or retinol. Why
Right.
is there something about formulating retinol that's difficult that makes why would these companies not use a good retinol?
I think they realize that the majority of people out there just know the word RET. They don't know that. Even you and I'm sure, forget the whole conversion process in chemistry, like retinaldehyde turns to retinoic acid, that whole thing. And so I think in general, they're playing on the marketing that at least it has the ret in it. And I do think that different forms of retinol or retinaldehyde are expensive. Certain ones are more expensive than others. And so I think that plays a role as well. And then it also has to do with how easy it is to stabilize and to formulate. It's not as easy as you think.
Right, and a lot of people don't realize that the manufacturing process is important because I like
Right.
to visit labs that make products. And one time I went to a company that was a very well known brand, and they have a retinol, and they were making the retinol in these huge KitchenAid mixer looking things where they were stirring them in an open vat with light and air, so we know all the retinol is getting inactivated. And then they would say, oh, our
Right.
retinol is not irritating. Well, it's not irritating because you don't have
Because
any
it's not
active.
active.
Right.
Exactly.
So, did you have a hard
Yeah.
time finding a retinol manufacturer, and did you use the same manufacturer for all of your products, or did you have to find one for the retinol and one for the vitamin C?
Different manufacturers for different products. Yes. It was labor intensive. I think it took us about a year and a half to develop all these formulas and to try many different prototypes, and try them. And the other thing is like, did it smell okay? Did it not smell? Should it have fragrance? Should it not? So we went back and forth in the drawing line. And obviously, this was done with a lot of thought and a lot of precision.
You could tell. I mean, we have not spoken before about your line, and these
No,
are not practiced questions and answers. But
not at all.
I could just tell by the products that you knew that you had done it right.
Thank you. And like I said, I
Okay.
learned a lot through your columns, through Zoe's, and just like, this is the type of subject that you're not going to learn unless you go out and educate yourself. And I always wanted to educate myself as a dermatologist because I didn't think that the people that were educating me on television or in Sephora knew anything about what they were talking about. And so I think that's probably what motivated me the most.
Right. And the celebrities don't know that the kind of water
Hmm.
you use matters. The way things are
Right.
stirred in the
Of
lab
course not.
matters. The order you put the ingredients in when you're making them matters. Because the
Right.
ceramides, need to be heated up, but if you heat them up, it'll inactivate all the antioxidants. There's all these little tricks, but you
Right.
could tell if your products really work and then they're stable and that they're great. So
Thanks.
congratulations on doing it right.
Thank you.
The only
Thank
question
you.
is why did it take someone so long to do it right and make it affordable?
That is a great question. I don't know the answer to it, but coming from you, that means a lot.
Well, I'm excited because I just want patients out there to have healthy skin and whatever we can do. I mean, matching the right products to their skin type, making sure they get products that are right for them, making sure they use them and they can afford them are important. And then, of course, keeping them engaged and communicating with us and so that they keep on. Because I see my patients, I think you said you do every 6 weeks. I like to see mine every 4 weeks because I find at about 3, 4 weeks, their compliance drops off, and all those
Oh,
studies show that within 3 days of seeing your dermatologist, they're more likely to be compliant. So I try to see them every month. That's
interesting.
not always practical for every dermatologist, but that's what
Right.
we do because we're very into
Okay.
skincare. But I think it matters a lot. Well, if dermatologists want to try some products, who should they reach out to learn more?
Okay. So if they want to try products, I'm going to have them go on dermamade.com, and then they can request samples. And then once they get the samples, we'll have them sign up for a Zoom call because a lot of times you just get samples, no one's going to use them. So we want to like have you not open the box before we have the Zoom call. And then when you do have the Zoom call, that's when we're going to show you the products. That's when we're going to teach you everything there is to know about Derma Made. And afterwards, you can also call your contact at Skin Type Solutions to purchase them.
Right, so they can get them through us and we can help them figure out how to set up the software so the right products pop into the right spot. And then we
Right.
work with you all. You all have wonderful marketing materials that help support the practice. So we'll be working with Dermamade to get those to your practice as well. So all you need to do is sign up, get some products, learn about them, let us know which Dermamade products you want to carry, and then we'll help you get the software set up so that they'll start popping into the regimens and then they can refill online. And another thing almost forgot to talk about is I love how you make it more expensive online than it is in the office. We've been trying to
Yep.
explain to our doctors that that's important because you want the patients to come into the office to buy the product because they get a better deal. And then it also helps them
Yep.
communicate with you and stay, we call it connected compliance. They stay in your realm of influence. So that's so
Right.
smart that you all did that.
Yeah. And also, like, there was no way I was going to have this on Amazon where patients could buy the first one from me and then the second one from Amazon. That was just not interesting to me, nor was that ever going to happen. And I always wanted to make sure that when they were coming to the office, it was cheaper. So online, it's actually double the price than it is when they come to the office. And I think that's also important. That's always been my number one complaint about all these other products is that they'll buy one, maybe, and then they'll buy the other one not from you. They'll buy it online.
Right. And the way Skin Type Solutions works is they have a doctor's code or a QR code. So the
Mm-hmm.
software recognizes them as the doctor's patient so that they can get the right pricing. But if they're just someone who comes in direct to consumer who doesn't have a doctor, they have to pay that high fee. And then that's
Right.
another way
Same.
to make sure the doctors still get credits for the sale. So that's great.
Right.
Well, thank you so much for explaining everything to us. And as for the viewers, let us know if you have any questions, and we'll help you get going with Derma Made. And thank you so much, Dr. Brodsky, for coming out with a line that we can all feel very good about selling and knowing that we're doing the right thing for our patients.
You're welcome. Thanks for this interview. It was great.